Three-point contest. ESPN, ABC, and Disney score the historic viewership for the 2025 WNBA All-Star events. Friday, July 18th, ESPN airs the most watched WNBA skills and three-point contest ever, averaging 1.3 million viewers, which is up 89% versus last year's WNBA skills and three-point contest, up 89%.
What happens when you throw a party and forget to invite the life of it? Boom! Ratings drop harder than a rookie's layup. The WNBA All-Star game nosedived 36% without Caitlin Clark. And now, the Indiana Fever are back tonight like, did you miss us or nah? Stick around because we're breaking down the chaos, the clapbacks, and why leaving Caitlin out was the worst PR move since pineapple on pizza. Let's dive into the madness.
You see, this is exactly what we were talking about. WNBA All-Star ratings are in for 2025, and it is down 40%. 40% from last year. That's bad. That is really bad. We already watched the ticket prices drop by more than 50% because Caitlin Clark was not playing. This is bad news for the WNBA, and this should be a wake-up call. This should be a straight-up wake-up call.
The WNBA tried to pull a fast one. Again. As if the 36% ratings drop at the All-Star game wasn't already sitting in plain sight like a pizza stain on white pants, they're acting like 2024 doesn't exist. Like this year is a glitch in the matrix. A mere typo in history. Suddenly, data went missing, media kits got vague, and press releases started reading like college essays written the night before. If anyone asks, 2024 is just a concept, a theory, a ghost.
The WNBA All-Star Weekend ratings are here. They have arrived. We have the skills challenge, we have the three-point contest, and we have numbers for the most exciting, entertaining, overwhelmed with joy WNBA All-Star game we have seen in quite some time. We have ratings for that disaster as well.
Because let's be real, they know exactly what happened when Caitlin Clark was left off that All-Star roster. They felt it. In their wallets, in their pride, in the sound of crickets where fanfare used to be. And now, instead of owning it, they're on a mission to scrub the evidence like it's a crime scene in a mob movie. No charts, no graphs, just vibes.
Many of you have probably been waiting on this, as have I. But the WNBA All-Star Game ratings have come out, and all I could think of right off the bat was 4 little letters. F-A-F-O. F around and find out. You bleep around and find out what this league looks like without Caitlin Clark being involved in your biggest events. Kathy Engelbert, this should be a perfect example of why you need to get your officiating cleaned up and you need to have a talk with your players in the league.
And in the middle of this mess, who shows up for a primetime sit-down with Caitlin Clark? Sue Bird. Yes, the same Sue Bird who's been low-key campaigning for the anti-hype committee ever since Caitlin started breaking records like they were twigs. The same Sue Bird who smirked and cheered while Clark was getting tossed around on the court like a stress ball.
For the WNBA, that somewhat decent attempt at comedy from Elle Duncan, she, her, that desperate plea for toxic masculinity from Elle Duncan, that was the highlight of the weekend for the WNBA. The rest of the weekend was filled with protest. It was filled with constant whining, constant complaining, and in between the whining and protesting was a 2-hour event that came nowhere close to resembling professional basketball.
Because nothing says veteran leadership like applauding a crew of defenders treating a rookie like she owed them money. The game turned into a bumper car derby, and Sue Bird was somewhere in the stands clapping like she just saw Shakespeare performed on ice. It wasn't strategy, it was spectacle. And the approval, disgraceful doesn't even cover it. It was like applauding a schoolyard shove and calling it mentorship. So imagine the irony when Caitlin agreed to sit across from her, a moment that should have felt significant, but instead gave off the energy of a deer politely nodding at a hunter. You could practically hear the tension humming like a mosquito in a quiet room. Because let's not pretend Sue Bird was ever going to give her flowers. She came for PR optics and maybe a little I told you so energy on the side. not with someone who seemed to co-sign the defensive assault tactics used by Mabry, Sheldon, and Charles like it was a highlight reel from Fight Club.
Not just in the WNBA and the coverage of the WNBA, but I think maybe in society in general, and that's bring back some shame, bring back some embarrassment, because ESPN does not seem to have the capacity for either one of those things. What am I talking about? Well, we've got the ratings for the All-Star game. It's going to be spun by the Caitlin Clark lovers and the Hatelens as well because of the number that came in. And you can see right here the insane spin by ESPN. ESPN, ABC, and Disney Plus scored historic viewership for the 25 WNBA All-Star weekend.
And speaking of Mabry and crew, if this is the future of WNBA defense, we might as well hand out football pads at tip-off. These weren't gritty plays. They were low-budget stunts from a bad action movie. The elbow, the body checks, the passive-aggressive shrugs afterward, it was amateur hour with a side of pettiness. And while most sane people watched in horror, there was Bird, enjoying the chaos like it was a bottomless mimosa brunch. Then there's the Indiana Fever situation, because apparently it's not enough that Caitlin Clark has to deal with targeted aggression and legacy player shade. She also has to co-star in the league's most awkward pairing, Caitlin and Stephanie White. If basketball chemistry were a science project, this one would have already exploded and set the table on fire. It's not just a mismatch, it's a miscalculation dressed as a coaching decision. At this point, even the popcorn vendors are whispering about how off everything feels. Because when your best player is being used like a third option in her own offense, something's not just off, it's upside down.
Ticket prices dropping, and now you see the show, the ratings fell tremendously. And it was an awful game. So that large percent of people who did not watch, they probably had a better Saturday than everybody else. We just got to be real. It was a glorified 4-point shooting contest in a layup line. It was terrible. It was a terrible product, and you guys should have taken it personal to show the world what you can do and show the world you are more than just Caitlin Clark.
Stephanie White's system is built like IKEA furniture with no instructions. Sure, it's technically a chair, but good luck sitting on it. Meanwhile, Caitlin is still drawing record crowds, moving merchandise like she's Taylor Swift with a jump shot, and making every away game feel like a homecoming tour. But inside her own organization, the energy is meh. It's like the Fever drafted a Ferrari and decided to drive it on gravel roads, windows down, blasting elevator music. The disconnect is painful, not just for Clark, but for anyone who was actually excited to see her elevate the team. Instead, it's a constant tug of war between what the fans want and what the coaching staff thinks basketball purity demands. Caitlin could go 7 for 9 from the arc and still get benched in the fourth for development purposes. That's not strategy, that's sabotage in khakis. The whole thing feels like watching someone try to downplay a tidal wave. The league's biggest draw is out here getting tripped, elbowed, and strategically iced out, while veterans throw shade from the sidelines and coaches act like she's just another player. It's delusional.
WNBA All-Star Game was the most watched program of the night across all of TV, as it should have been. 2.2 million average viewers, up 158%. That is absolutely an insane number. Think about that, folks. Caitlin Clark, the most popular by far, by any measure, any metric, popular female basketball player of all time. We've seen all the record-breaking ratings, the record-breaking attendance, playing outside in front of 55,000 people.
And not even the good kind. This is the flat earth kind. Every time the league tries to underplay Caitlin's impact, they end up tripping over their own shoelaces. Ratings don't lie, merch sales don't lie, sold-out arenas don't lie. But sure, keep pretending the All-Star game flopped because of the weather or Mercury in retrograde. Let's just ignore the 6-foot 0-inch elephant in the room who broke viewership records, moved the needle, and still got left off the roster like she was a bench warmer in a pickup game. And here's the real kicker. They still expect her to play nice, smile for the cameras, do the interviews. Do they want to grow or do they want to gatekeep? Because Caitlin Clark is here whether they like it or not. And trying to erase her impact with selective metrics and media amnesia is just making the league look insecure. She's not the problem. She's the proof. Proof that people care. Proof that this game has untapped potential. Proof that maybe, just maybe, the old guard needs to let go of the gate and let someone new walk through, even if she's wearing a ponytail and pulling up from the logo.
Nobody's asking you to hold Caitlin Clark's hand. Just play fair and stop with the WWE bullshit. All right? I mean, it's clear. Fans sent a blatant message, a shot across thou bow. All right? And your ship, well, without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA and all their pay us what you owe us action, that action will sink. That action will sink. Woo! WNBA All-Star Game sees ratings drop without Caitlin Clark, and it's ugly.
So sure, keep hiding the numbers. Keep pretending the ratings dip was a coincidence. Keep applauding dirty plays and calling them grit. But don't be surprised when the fans and the future start asking why the league is so afraid of its own success. And of course, right when you think the WNBA couldn't fumble the Caitlin Clark era any harder, enter Stephanie White, clipboard in hand, determined to make sure Caitlin Clark remains the background extra in her own blockbuster movie. If there's a handbook for how not to manage generational talent, she's got it bookmarked and laminated. Every game feels like an audition for who won't get the ball when it matters, and Caitlin's name always mysteriously falls to the bottom of that list. Because heaven forbid anyone actually leans into what's working. Caitlin is box office. You'd think the goal would be to maximize your star, to build around her, to maybe, just maybe, let her take the last shot. But instead, Caitlin spends half the game running cardio drills while the offense flows through players with a combined YouTube highlight reel of 30 seconds.
New. So we finally got the viewership numbers back from the All-Star events. And yeah, you can tell ESPN was trying to help them out here with the All-Star viewership. We're about to get in quick, y'all. As you can see, the graphic here came from ESPN, and it said ESPN, ABC, and Disney Plus score historic viewership for 25 WNBA All-Star events, which went down Friday. ESPN airs most watched WNBA skills and three-point contests ever, all right? So they did better than last year, basically. With 1.3 million average viewers, it was up 89% versus last year's WNBA skills and three-point contest. All right, most viewed program across all of TV and primetime among people under 35, adults 18 to 34, and females 18.
And even that's generous. And make no mistake, this isn't just bad strategy. This is intentional suppression. This is an active, conscious effort to make sure Clark never becomes the face of the Fever. Not on White's watch. It's almost as if there's a silent code. No one rookie should have all that power. Even when she's dropping dimes, hitting logo threes, and dragging the team back from double-digit deficits, White looks down the bench like she's scanning for a third-string savior. It's not about basketball anymore. It's politics with a scoreboard. A stubborn refusal to let Clark rise because that would mean admitting she's already above the system they've spent years protecting. And rather than adapt, they'd rather let the team flatline with pride. Then there's the Sabrina Ionescu situation, and honestly, thank goodness she showed up for the three-point contest. Because let's not pretend anyone was tuning in for a post-game dissertation on mid-range defense. It's comical how they keep pushing the narrative that this league is more than one player, yet their entire marketing scheme hinges on the same three names doing all the heavy lifting. Without Caitlin, without Sabrina, what even is the product they're selling? Vague empowerment slogans and 47 missed layups?
WNBA players believe they are stars. But earlier this afternoon, players in the WNBA were given another harsh dose of reality. Ratings for the All-Star game were released, and the ratings once again proved that this dump of a league is nothing without Caitlin Clark. Now, most of the media, they chose to provide honest reports of WNBA ratings. But imagine my surprise when I noticed that ESPN once again decided to polish the turd.
If Sabrina had sat this one out, they might have had to air the game on the cooking channel just to keep the lights on. The ratings would have fallen faster than a defender trying to guard Caitlin in transition, and that's what makes the whole situation even more absurd. The league needs these stars, desperately. But the coaches and decision makers keep behaving like they're optional accessories. Back to Indiana. There's this bizarre insistence on manufacturing balance where there's clearly hierarchy. Caitlin Clark didn't just stumble into the league, she catapulted in with more momentum than the rest of her team combined. And yet, White continues to distribute touches like she's splitting slices of cake at a toddler's birthday party. Equal, even, and utterly joyless. And what's the end goal here? Parity. Parity doesn't sell jerseys. Parity doesn't move the needle. Stars do, and Caitlin isn't just a star, she's the whole damn galaxy. But every game she's treated like she's still auditioning. It's not just frustrating, it's cartoonishly counterproductive. This is the player who brought eyeballs, ticket sales, broadcast deals, and national headlines. And the strategy is to pretend she's just another role player? It's like buying a Ferrari and using it to deliver mail.
Getting 2.2 million average viewers, up 158%, not versus last year, but versus 2023 WNBA All-Star. All right, second most watched WNBA All-Star game ever, behind 2024. Now, 2024, they ended up having 3.44 million. All right. And honestly, man, we know why. Okay, we know why. There was a lot at stake, right? People trying to prove people wrong. You had Enrique, who felt like she deserved to be on.
There's an entire movement happening around Caitlyn, and the Fever are out here trying to market committee basketball. They want a team face with no face, a leader with no spotlight, a star with no stage. And all because Stephanie White can't seem to let go of the idea that the system matters more than the spark. What's worse is how the fans are treated like they don't notice. Like no one sees the bizarre coaching decisions, the awkward rotations, the glaring refusal to put the ball in the hands of the league's most electrifying rookie. But guess what? Everyone sees it. The fans see it. The media sees it. Even the opposing teams are starting to notice and exploit it. Because the sad truth is, until someone higher up steps in, this isn't changing. You can only deny gravity for so long. Eventually, the league will have to choose. Embrace the momentum or watch it vanish under the weight of outdated egos and questionable coaching calls. Because one thing's certain, Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA to shine. But the WNBA, without her and Sabrina, well, that show would barely make it past the opening credits.